You don't actually lack self-discipline. You're just really good at abandoning yourself.
Yep. And you say you'll get up early, you'll say that you're going to move your body or that you're going to stop texting that person
Mm.
and start that new project. And then by Wednesday, you're back in the old pattern again.
Yeah. And then the real pain is that you didn't do the thing that you said that you were going to do. And it's the voice that goes, see, you can't trust yourself. You failed again.
Absolutely.
If you're actively seeking ways to build your mental toughness, navigate life transitions with grace, or simply find inspiration to keep moving forward, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Art of Beautiful Thinking podcast.
This is part 2 of our integration series, and we're talking about what it looks like to actually live your life authentically.
That's right. Out in the real world where you actually day to day, how do you do it? How do you get back on track?
So today we're going to unpack where self-abandonment really comes from and why you're not broken and there's nothing really wrong with you, but how to rebuild that self-trust that you've lost. And it's really tiny little winnable steps instead of allowing shame to affect us.
I can make a change, and that's how things can be. You can make a change.
Let's start going into how can you reframe it? What's the discipline in reframing self-abandonment? And what does self-abandonment looks like? Like, where does it come from? Where do we pick it up from? What
I
do you
think we
reckon,
pick
Kat?
it up from programs, don't we? Like, there's so many things that influence our self-abandonment. Certainly for me, I can look without judgment at all of the females in my life, my grandparents, my mother, my grandmother. I've noticed all of them have abandoned themselves for the men in their lives because that was the way we did things.
Yeah, but the number one thing for a woman to look after her family, kids came
Mm.
first, husband comes first, and
Yep.
you pretty much come last. And
Yeah.
I think that still happens today
Yeah.
to a point as well with a lot of women where they totally throw themselves into the family and lose their identity in that.
Yeah.
But I think
Absolutely.
shame can also come from programming as young kids, like especially in school, being told by
Mm,
teachers and things like that you're not smart enough. You'll
mm,
never, you'll never accomplish anything in life. You will never attain anything in life. I mean, I
yeah.
know when I was a kid, I had a couple of teachers that were just total assholes. They just didn't like me because of my background, because my background's Slavic,
Mm.
and Australia back then was a little bit, it probably still is today, a little
Back
bit
then.
racist about
Yeah.
things. But yeah, and would go out of their way to constantly berate me and tell me that I wasn't good enough. And so
Mm.
you add that to a domestic violence upbringing as well. And
Yeah.
I came out of that whole scenario as a teenager and a young adult, honestly believing that I wasn't good enough for anything
Yeah.
and really having
Yep.
to, find myself. And
Mm.
but it wasn't from the point of view of going, I have to do what other people are doing and feel as if I have to actually fit in, because some people do that as well. It's the whole thing of trying to fit in.
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't necessarily I need to try and fit in, but I was always concerned about what people thought about me.
Yeah, that's a big thing, isn't it? And when you're a kid at school, you want to fit in, you want to have friends, you want to do all of that stuff. And then when you go to high school, it gets 10 times worse and you think,
Yeah.
wow, bullying is out of control. And I mean, people react differently. So if you're an extroverted person who does need that validation from other people, I suppose, then, that can be very difficult when you're a child and you're still trying to figure out who you are and what you stand for. I've seen it. I've seen a lot of people who've retained friendships from high school that are massively dysfunctional when you're on the outside looking in. The queen bee syndrome. You've got one girl or a group of popular girls everybody loves, and you've got to kind of play your little roles to get along with those. And if you decide to grow or change, look out because you're not fitting in anymore.
Yeah. And isn't that interesting though? Because a lot of the times that's what we need to do is to grow and change so we don't fit in.
Yep.
And it's about being true to ourselves and looking
Yep.
for our internal truth so we know what it is that brings us joy in our lives. Because a lot of the times I feel that when we're trying to please other people and we totally forget about us,
Yeah.
then you're actually living life by other people's rules. You're not living life by your own rules and by
Yeah.
what's important to you. And if those people, for instance, disappear out of your out of your world and you find yourself all alone, then all of a sudden you're going, "Who am I? What am I?
What
What
a
am I?
wonderful
What do
thing to
I
do,
want
though.
out of life?"
That's exactly what the universe wants you to do. Stop and have
Yeah,
a look and turn your focus from worrying about what everyone around you thinks, your family, your friends, your peers, your colleagues, whatever. that's all just surface noise. What a great thing to happen, because then it's time to look inward and go, okay, who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? What's going to make me happy? Gather my strength. Now I know what my aligned goals are and how I'm working, and heal that I suppose that need for validation within yourself. Look at what sort of a life you can live from that.
Mm.
That's powerful.
Well, I kind of, how we've spoken about this a lot about your self-talk and how you talk to yourself.
Mm.
Obviously, that's self-talk. It's
I
just
knew what you meant. I knew what you meant.
whatever. So that whole self-talk, and usually the self-talk's quite negative for a
Yeah.
lot of people. Occasionally it may be, it may say something good, but usually our self-talk is quite negative.
Yeah.
And when you do start to turn inward and start to reconnect with yourself and start to repair that relationship with yourself, the first thing that you become aware of is that negative self-talk and that little,
Yeah.
that monkey chatter, that
Yeah.
little ego personality. And it's really important to work on that. And then as you do start to become observant of those thoughts and you start to change them, all of a sudden the relationship that you have with yourself changes as well, because you've become a really good mate of yourself. And that's what
Yeah.
I think that's what actually helps to build that self-trust
Yeah.
when you've actually forgotten about you for a long time.
Absolutely. And you don't even know that you're doing it half the time,
No,
because it's
not at
it's
all.
it's normal. It's
Yeah.
normal for most people around you. Like, I see it all the time. I see people setting aside their boundaries, setting aside their own feelings, people are rude and behave really badly, and people suck it up, or they say things like, to get along with that person, they go, that's just how they are,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
or they're constantly saying yes to things that they don't wanna say yes to.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're miserable as
and
hell, but, they
yeah.
just keep sucking it up. And I've asked them. I'm that person that will ask the question. I'll go, "Why do you do that if you hate it that much?" Because I'm also one of those people that people tell everything to. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. And I'll go, "Why do you put up with that then?" They go, "Oh, well, for the sake of peace." But I
Well, yeah,
I don't think that's
but
peace.
but whose peace? Whose peace?
Other
It's
people's peace, not
yeah,
yours,
not
not your
yours.
inner peace.
Exactly. And And I think that's part of it, is someone that is constantly saying yes when actually what you want to do is say no. How does that make you
Yeah.
feel? And,
Yeah.
do you go back having an argument with yourself and feeling then bad about the fact that you didn't stand up for yourself or you didn't
Yeah.
back? And then that little, spiral pattern starts to happen of giving yourself a hard time because you didn't listen to you. You did what other people wanted you to do. So
Yeah.
setting those boundaries is really important.
And
And
that's something people
understanding what
desperately
those
struggle
boundaries
with.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People desperately struggle with boundaries, and people get so offended when you set boundaries,
no,
even if you do it in a nice way and you say, look, I feel really disrespected by you. I don't like the way that you've treated me. And, I'm really disappointed that you did that. People get really offended when you say that sort of stuff because they can't cope with the fact that you set a boundary. That's common.
well, I think it also depends on how you go about setting it and how you don't have to
Mm,
be an asshole about it, you
true, true.
you can
But that's not being an
be
asshole.
you can set
I don't reckon.
Oh, no, 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 I'm not saying that you are, I'm just saying in general,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah. You don't have to be awful
you
about it,
don't
but
have
you can.
to sit there and go, "This is my boundary, and do not step over my boundary." It's more you know what your boundaries are, or if you don't, figure out what your boundaries are, and then be very clear of
Mm,
what you're willing and not willing to tolerate.
yeah,
And when someone crosses the boundary, is to kind of go, okay, you look at it and go, okay, is this something that I need to walk away from?
yeah, yeah,
Or is it something that I actually need to advise that person that they've made me feel really uncomfortable, or know that I don't want to do that because it's against my value system, or what, it doesn't
exactly.
really matter. But you've got to be very clear on what your
Yeah.
boundaries are.
You need to know
And
that
your
you can have that
boundaries usually
conversation.
align to your value system. So
And that's the thing, because, I mean, we're born into families, and those families give us extended groups, and we go to school and we have, groups that we're into that we didn't pick. And so a lot of times, you get bunches of people that you're with that you didn't choose.
yeah.
And so you're still forming who you are in those processes, and you're still figuring yourself out and figuring out your boundaries as you go. And sometimes you get into the accepted norms
Yeah.
that might not align with you, but you've still just got to put up with it a little bit because you're stuck in that situation. And as you get older, you can start to then choose and say, well, actually, I don't want to hang out with this person because every time I see them, they drain my energy or they treat me badly or whatever. And I can't have that conversation with them because I started broaching the subject. They got really narky about it, or I've seen someone else do that and they got funny. It depends on the person. And sometimes you can choose that you just want to remove yourself from that situation. And that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't do that a lot here. We get very funny about doing that. People get very funny about why are you not hanging out? Why are we not doing stuff? Yeah,
I don't think it's
it's
just, I don't think that's just here. I think that is people in general. You know, it's spoken about this in our relationship series where each relationships have a season, you know, and some relationships have a longer season than others.
yeah,
And others have a very, you know, some have a very short season, some have a very long season.
yeah,
And it just depends if you can, if you know that the relationship isn't meeting your needs and it's not meeting the other person's needs, then you go, well, okay, it's time to move on. Don't
move on.
hold on to it just for the sake of holding on to it, but out of guilt,
Mm.
for instance. You know, that's another big thing is that we can hold on to things out of guilt, and we don't need to
See
do.
that a lot too. That's
Yeah,
a big self-abandonment one. I feel guilty. What will they do without me?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And I know, like, if I use a story there from when I was younger and assisting my mum,
yeah.
and and I was assisting her with drinking, not
Mm.
making her drink more, trying to help her not drink.
Not holding up the glass, no.
Exactly. I wasn't holding the
Encouraging her to
glass
put it
for her,
down.
pouring it down her throat. No, no, none of that. It
Let's
was
do beer bongs, mum. No.
it was more about, you know, stopping the
Oh,
drinking
yeah.
and
Yep.
knowing that there was a problem and trying to assist her to move with that.
Yeah.
And then I realized that she wasn't willing to make those changes herself, and I couldn't
Yeah.
force her to do it, so I needed
No.
to step away from it, and I needed to step away for my own sanity,
Yes.
and then when I did step away, the guilt came in of,
Mhm.
"She's
Mhm.
your mother, you should be helping her, why aren't you helping her?"
Yep.
And it was during that phase that I kind of realized and when I went to the counselor and got told, "Well, she doesn't have to be your best friend," and all those types of things just because she's your mother. And I kind of went, "Oh, yeah, okay, I can move on." But again,
Yeah.
even when I chose to move on, the guilt still came into
Oh,
it. But if
yep.
I look at the guilt wasn't me being guilty about what I felt I needed to do for me. I felt guilty from the programming that I had of
Yes.
you're meant to look after your parents, you're meant to do this,
Yes.
you're meant to do
Yep.
that, and totally ignoring what I needed to do for me. And
Yeah,
when
well,
I came
it's
to
a
the
no-win.
realization that
Yep.
what I needed to do for me meant actually walking away
Yeah.
and realizing that the guilt was just old programming,
Yeah.
then
Yep.
I was being truthful to myself. Yeah. But when we still allow the guilt to play out, we're not being truthful to ourselves. We're actually allowing the society's validation
Yeah. Yeah.
um, to dictate what we should or should not do.
And it's a narrative. It's a narrative that we are fed in everything that we consume, right? Thou shalt honor thy mother and father. You need to look after your parents. You need to do all the things. The fact of the matter is that quite often our parents make really bad choices and they do really dumb stuff and they repeat those same things because we're all human and they may not have chosen to increase their self-awareness or do anything. They also have free choice. So you can't go, look, you need to do this. So if they, and I've had my dad who's a compulsive gambler. I've said to him, you know, I'm happy to help you. We can go and do some counseling together and I'll support you through your process of coming to grips with your addiction. And he said, I don't have to do anything. It's my life. And if I want to live my life like this, then I will.
No.
And it is his life. He can do what he wants, but I won't be in it because
Yeah.
I'm not going to hang around for that. And that doesn't mean I hate him. It just means that I've chosen my safety, my personal growth. Because, I mean, imagine how much energy that takes.
Oh, a lot. It takes
How
quite a
much
lot.
energy does it
Yeah.
take to sit on the fence and to try and have a relationship with someone that you can see destroying themselves and still be connected to them as and respect them as a parent, but at the same time, they whinge to you nonstop about how hard their life is and how terrible it is, and you can't say anything. You can't go, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't gamble so much, or maybe you should go to a meeting. You know, you can't do that because it's just going to create a drama. So, what choice do you have?
Yeah.
Ultimately, you're going to sacrifice your whole self on the horrible burden of their ego and their drama? Or are you just going to go, okay, well, look, I let you go with love. You move on and you go live your life, because what can I do? I'm not going to be put in that position, because
Yeah.
that is also, I've been doing a bit of other work on soul contracts and stuff recently. There's a thing that we do a lot in our society, and I've really noticed this because it's one of those things once you start reading about it. We take on other people's karma in a way, and this is a bit spiritual, but if you're empathetic, I'm a very empathetic person. So when I've got people around me that I love them big, and I want to help them and I want to do things for them. And I hope that that's reciprocated. So sometimes I can be a bit too empathetic and a bit too willing to help people. And then I carry their karma, which I shouldn't be doing. I try and shield them from the consequences of their own actions, not so much anymore,
Yeah.
but back in the day. This is not my job. And one of the things I had to really learn, and I still keep learning this because I still get reminders, is that it's their journey. It's their journey. They can do what they want with their journey. And it takes me back to, I think I've said this before, the butterfly story. You don't open the cocoon for the butterfly, because if you don't let it struggle its way, its wings will never work properly. It'll never gain the muscles, and it can't do its
Yeah.
thing. It can't fly.
It needs
So
to go through the process. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And again, with our parents, it's not our job to um, protect and shield them from all the consequences of their actions. If they're still functioning adults, they're still able to have. If you're going to have free will, you also must have accountability.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely. But I
Yeah.
think that's a really good indication of self-abandonment, where you will put others' needs before your own,
Yes.
and again allow guilt to drive you in doing
Yes.
the work for those other people, even though everything inside of you is saying you should walk away from this. And that's that part of ignoring yourself,
Yes, it
ignoring
is.
your body, because your body will
Yeah.
actually be telling you as well not
Yep.
to be doing this. And you may find yourself getting sick more often, having migraines, headaches, or even just feeling, every time you go to interact with that individual or the circumstance, you're all tensed up and things like that, because it's your body's way of saying, don't be here. And so that's another sign
Yeah.
to you to actually recognize that if your body is feeling constantly out of sorts
Yeah.
with a particular situation, or when you're around an individual because you're not trusting yourself, then it's really important to step back and become aware of that, and then take the necessary steps to put yourself in a position where your body doesn't feel so tense.
And it's so common for women or men, I suppose, in our age group to have aging parents plus teenagers, because teenagers can also push these buttons. Anyone around us really can. It's called the sandwich generation a lot of the time. They say you're sandwiched at this age between aging parents and teenagers that are both quite high in demand. So at some point, and you give of yourself here and you give of yourself there.
Yeah.
And often we just go, you know what, I promised I'd go to my mum's today and help her do some cleaning. Oh, I really wanted to go to the gym. Oh, I haven't got time to fit it all in because, you know, I needed to do this for the teenager this morning. And then and suddenly in the middle of the day, you've got no time for you. All the things that you had planned for you have gone out the window. And if that happens now and again, I get that. But if it's happening continuously and you're constantly putting yourself on the back burner, how are you going to achieve anything that you want to achieve in your life?
And how do you feel physically at the end of that? You'd be
Yeah,
exhausted. You'd be totally
exhausted.
exhausted.
And then
Not
you've
just
also got relationships. At the end of the day, you come home totally dissatisfied. You've had a day where all you've done is given from your cup all day. And then you come home to your partner and they want to have a conversation with you and you're completely fried. You've got nothing left.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. These are just some very simple scenarios of self-abandonment.
Yeah.
So I would actually ask our audience to just reflect, where are
Mm.
you abandoning yourself in your life? May not be happening across all areas of your life. It could be one particular area where you are actually abandoning yourself.
Yeah.
And probably need to do a little bit of reflection on that and see what some of the things that you could actually possibly do. It could even be as simple as breaking promises to yourself, that you
Oh,
make
yeah. That's a big one.
yourself to do something and then you don't follow through with it.
Yeah.
And when you do that consistently, what happens is that starts to create, again, it's part of that not good enough scenario. It starts to
Yeah.
create that little monkey mind chatter going on, constantly saying, see, you never finish anything. Don't start that. You're not good enough
Mm.
to start that. Gosh, you've got so many things on the go. Why do you have so many things on the go? All that negative self-talk.
You've got
And
no
that
stickability.
happens.
Why don't you
Yeah,
finish
no
it out to the end?
yeah. And it was funny because I remember I used to talk to myself that way
Me
in
too.
my 20s. And
Yep.
that's because I would start a lot of projects and then not follow through. And the reason why I didn't follow through was because of fear or
Yeah.
self doubt.
Yep.
And where did that come from? A lack of not trusting myself. And then
Yes.
I got to a point where I saw the pattern and I kind of went, hold on, stop. Okay, rather than trying to do 101 things and fail at all of them, pick one thing and
Yeah.
just keep going on it and be consistent with it. And even if you show up for 10 minutes a day on it, it doesn't matter. Just keep showing up with it.
Keep
And then
doing
what
it.
that does is it builds the confidence and it
That's right.
starts to build that self-trust muscle as well.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, and you'll finish it. And then all of a sudden you go, wow, that was a great accomplishment. I did that.
Yeah,
Look at that.
exactly.
I actually did
Exactly.
it. And I remember the first time I did that too, and I actually finished something, and I
Mm.
was so proud of myself. I went, "Wow, I actually finished it." I actually went off and did a travel agent course. It
Oh,
was
wow.
actually a
Okay.
diploma to become a travel consultant. This is years, years and years ago, and I was so like I didn't like tests, didn't like doing exams because I'd suffer from a little bit of that exam anxiety, and I'd go blank
Yeah.
when I did an
Yep.
exam. But I followed through and I consistently showed up all the time, consistently showed up, consistently showed up. And then I got it and I finalized it. And that was the first time I looked at myself and went, see, you are smart enough. See,
Mm.
you can actually complete exams. And
Yeah.
also you've actually completed a diploma in something. That's fantastic. And that was
Education's
my
so
first
good. Any kind of education is so good, particularly if you've got that self-abandonment that you've got going on, where you've always been taught to say, like, I know my mum's generation again, very much, like, oh, well, that's a bit selfish. Why do you think you
yeah.
deserve that? Oh, you're getting too big for your boots. Oh, you're not special. Actually, everybody's special in some way. And the most important person to be special to is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when you do education and you invest in yourself, it's fantastic because it's something that no one can ever take away from you. No one
No.
can ever claim that they did it for you. No one can ever take it off you and say you didn't do it. No one can ever run it down. It's completely indestructible. So if someone's saying you haven't got stickability or whatever and you do that, we'll go, well, guess what? The
Yeah.
university can't be wrong.
Exactly. But that's the thing, it doesn't have to also be a university degree. It can be anything. It can be
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
a short course. It's doing something that proves to you that you have got that stickability and that you can consistently show up and that you've got
Exactly.
discipline to consistently show up for you, and that you're doing something for you. Doesn't matter what it is. I've got a friend of ours who she does a shit ton, and I mean a shit ton of different art courses. Like she's always going off doing
Wow.
creative arty stuff constantly and learning new creative ways of doing things. And she'll post up things of, oh, I've just done a cake course or I've just done this or
Ha,
I've gone off and I've made
that's
stained
pretty
glass
awesome.
work or I've gone off and I've done, totally
Yeah.
random stuff. But I look at that and I think that's fantastic because she's developing the self-confidence within herself in that creative work, but
Yeah.
also she doesn't go and do it and only turns up to a couple of classes. She finishes the whole thing,
Finishes the whole thing. Yep.
and then she's
And
walked away
that's an
and
act of
look,
self-love, isn't it? That is an
it
act
is.
of saying, okay, it's a really busy day. Because I know when I was at university, one of the big things that, I mean, I did like peer support and things. And what they said was the biggest thing at university, getting people to stick, was helping them feel they belonged. And then when they would get people in for like open foundation, they had a really good Newcastle uni. They had a really high score of people transitioning from open foundation into, that's like coming in later in life, into uni, because they went through everything with them. They talked about, remember to set time aside for yourself, look at your schedule, ask yourself, can you prioritize what you need here? So it was like a real mini course in how to look after you and choose your
Oh
education,
wow,
even when you've got a million different things, because we all do. We've all got things, that are going to take our attention away. It's that thoughts that you have about yourself when you are going to do something. So when I'm going to the gym in the morning and my husband says, oh, I wanted to go out to breakfast this morning and have coffee, I'll go, in the old days, I'll go, oh, that sounds like so much more fun. I'll abandon my goal. Let's go and have breakfast together. And that's not going to help my waistline one bit.
Exactly right.
And now I go, yeah, okay, that sounds nice. Perhaps we can do that tomorrow, or we'll schedule that in
Yeah,
another day, but I'm going to the gym right now. Or
yeah,
maybe we can go to the pub and have a beer tonight, whatever, but I've got to go do my workout. Thank you.
absolutely. And I think that's really important. It's important in all areas of your life where you've got to carve out time for you and set that boundary. Let your
Yeah.
family know, or if you're, sharing a house with a flatmate or something, let them know that I can't be interrupted during this time.
Yeah.
And if you, I remember when I was first looking into businesses, and some of the key things that people used to say is if you're looking at starting a business from home, make sure that you let your family know when you're, like for us, for
Yeah.
instance, you're podcasting, close
Yeah.
the door.
Yeah.
Let them
That's
know that
what I
when
do.
that door is closed,
Yep.
don't interrupt me, because it
That's
means I'm
right.
actually working. Just because I'm at home, it doesn't mean all of a sudden you still have access to me. So that is clearly setting a boundary, and
Yeah,
that's what.
absolutely.
So it's having that conversation with them know this is really important to me. I'm going off to, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's doing a business thing,
Yeah.
doesn't really
Yep.
matter. Just time out to read, meditate,
Yep.
doesn't matter. It's what is it? Carve that time out, and then let your family know that that is me time. And me
Yeah.
time means please don't interrupt me. I
That's
just
right.
need to spend some quality time with myself. And that
It's
could
really
be
interesting that you say that.
a bath on a Sunday evening, where you're pampering.
Yes.
Just, well,
It's really interesting you say that, because when my kids were little, I was running my own business and they knew, and I trained them from a young age, if mummy's on the phone, don't interrupt. Because I would get phone calls from suppliers or mines or
yeah,
whatever,
of
and I'd
course.
be like,
Mm.
it's a business phone call. So they learned to wait. And oftentimes they'd be in the room with me and I'd be like, hang on, hang on, hang on. And what was really interesting is I'd have a lot of friends who didn't teach their kids that. So we'd be in a phone call and then partway through, they'd have like 5 or 10 interruptions per phone call.
Gosh.
And they'd be like, oh God, it's so hard raising children. I'm like, why don't you just tell them when you're on the phone, unless your leg is falling off, just to wait? Because it's
Yeah.
actually, the other flip side of loving yourself enough to do this stuff is how much it will enrich your life, but how it will enrich the lives of those around you. So if you're teaching people around you how to treat you with decency and good boundaries, they learn that. And then they start treating other people around them with those same boundaries, particularly if they're your children and you're bringing them up. My kids are organized. They know how to sort out their own shit. I don't
Yeah.
baby them, but that isn't something I've consciously gone about doing. They've just learnt that because I've gone, well, why don't you do this? Sorry, I'm a little bit busy right now. I'm in the middle of this. So you can sort that out and come to me afterwards. If you can't sort it out whilst I'm doing this, then I'll come and help you. Do you know how many times they've gone off and sorted that out themselves?
And that's it. That's amazing. It really helps them build that independence, doesn't it? And
And they're building
it's
their
also
confidence.
it's also, if you are setting that boundary, they'll become very strong at setting boundaries themselves as well.
Yes,
So it's
yes,
teaching
yes.
them a skill as well.
Yeah,
So and I think that's a thing when we are constantly um, putting our own selves aside for other people
yeah.
and bending over backwards for other people,
Mm, mm,
saying, "Oh, yes, it's okay for me to drop this because you're more important than
yeah.
I'm doing over here." That's the actual message that you're saying to them. You're more important than I am for myself. And
Yes,
when
yes.
you start to set that rule and that boundary, they start to respect that. People will
They
respect,
do. And
and
they're
then they
less
start to treat
entitled.
you
They're less
differently as well.
entitled. Because
Yeah.
so one of the common gripes that my mother says to me all the time, it's so funny. My stepbrother and my stepdad are there, like he'll come over and they'll flap about the house, and my mum will, and I'll go, okay, so they're there today. Would you like to go shopping or would you like to go and do something? Oh, no, 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 I can't go anywhere. I've got to make their breakfast and I've got to make their lunch.
So interesting. I've got to do all the
Ridiculous.
things for them.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It's
But
funny.
that's
Really
fine.
hard.
And I've had conversations about that and I'm like, okay, well, if that's what you want to do. And I tell you now, you're not created to live a life of servitude and, enslavement to other people. Not a
No,
single human was put on this earth for that purpose. That's not your purpose. Your purpose is to figure out what it is that you love and what you're good at. And then also, not saying to be completely selfish and do whatever you want. Obviously, there's balance in all of this, but you
totally.
don't have to sacrifice yourself on the altar of family or friends or work or whatever. You can still retain, and that's so important. You can still retain who you are and choose choose your way forward in this world. Because the minute that you keep doing that, you're guaranteed to be miserable anyway.
Well, you will. You'll get to a point in your life where you'll look back and you'll go, I didn't do anything for me.
Yeah. What do
You
you
know,
want on your gravestone?
yeah,
What
what
do
were
you
the
want on your
things that
gravestone?
helped me? What were the things that I wanted to experience? What were the dreams that I let go of? And then you look
Y-
back in life with a bit of regret, and you don't want that. You don't want to live life
No.
with regret.
Do you think, in your experience, Eva, because I've got an answer to this, but I want to know what you think. Do you think people that lay themselves down for others all the time, do you think that they're respected?
No,
No. Have you ever seen anyone reciprocate that to those kinds of people?
not really. Because
No, me neither.
usually what I found when people are like that all the time and they're givers, they're like huge give
Givers.
is people who are takers absolutely take advantage of them.
They latch on, don't they? They end up surrounded by
Yeah.
takers. Yeah.
And that's what I've seen. That's not to say that giving is bad. I
No,
think like I'm a giver, but
I'm a
I
giver.
give with boundaries. You
Same,
know,
same.
there's boundaries in this because I know how easy it would be for me to just dive into something
Yes.
wholeheartedly
Yep.
and then get myself hurt because that's
Yep.
what happened to me as a child growing up. So
Yeah.
it was like I learned very earlier on
Mm.
not to do that because if I continued doing it, I would continue to get hurt.
Yeah.
And so, and it's like it's almost like I remember going to a leadership program when I was working for a large telecommunication organization,
Mm.
and the guy that was actually running that particular workshop, he put up just to talk about people's reactions to things, and all of a sudden he put up this ad that showed uh, kids starving in Africa and all that type of thing, and it was one of the
Mm.
feed the starving child type thing, donations, looking for donations and all that.
Yep.
And then sort of said, okay, so how are people responding to this ad? Like what happens when you see this type of ad? Now, for me, I know that when I see that ad, my whole everything in my heartstrings get pulled and tugged, and
Same.
I want to
Same.
do something, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I know that that ad is going up because they're trying to take advantage of people like me
Yeah.
who do fall for that and go,
Yes.
okay, I'll give them all, so much money or what have you. And it's not to say that giving donations is bad. I'm just trying to give an example here
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
how easy it
Yep.
is to fall into the
Oh, yeah.
doing stuff for other people all the time and forgetting about yourself.
Mm.
And I remember when he sort of said, okay, so how many people would actually donate? And all of these people put up their hands. And he looked at me and goes, Yvette, you haven't put your hand up. Why? And I said, because yes, it pulls at my heartstrings. Yes, I actually feel so empathic for those people. Like I have so much empathy for these people. But at the
Yep.
same time, I know that I am being taken advantage of through the ad. Like,
Yeah.
and I
It's a
don't know
manipulation.
how much of that money is actually going to go to really helping those
Yeah.
kids versus how much is going to go towards administration and all that
And the
type.
CEO's massive wage. And yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I
yeah,
think on
and
average, charities, the kids see about 40% or something. I'm sure I've read something
yeah,
somewhere, and 60% of it goes to actually keeping the
correct.
charity alive. Yeah.
So that just takes me back to that conversation where I talk about givers and takers.
Yes.
There's a lot out there to set people up, to tug at your heartstrings, to get you to actually fall for their
Mm-hmm.
marketing campaign,
Mm-hmm.
or if someone's trying to
Yep.
entice you to do something for them.
Yep.
And if someone's very,
Mm.
very good at manipulating other people, they will pull at your
Yeah.
heartstrings. They'll see a giver and just go, come on, I want this. And you'll go, okay, and you'll give, 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 give.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you're exhausted.
Um, what we're talking about is not abandoning yourself. We're saying that you can be in healthy relationships with people where you still give to people that also give back to you. So it's a two-way street, and you're also allowed to say, I've reached my limit, or I need some time for myself, or actually I don't think I'm going to do that. Sorry, I don't have capacity to do that, or I'm uncomfortable doing that because if I do that, I'm going to neglect myself. So that's what we're talking about. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. That is not selfish, because a lot of society goes, oh, you're being so selfish. You're telling people to be selfish. No, it's self-full. It's self-full. It's the sweet spot between selfish or selfless. Self-full is where you're going, I will give to people that I love within reason, but I need to look after me first. It's like
Yeah.
first aid. It's like first aid. You don't go running in when someone's been electrocuted and just grab them, or they're still getting electrocuted so that you also die. You stop and you consider the safety for yourself first. Am I going to put myself at risk if I help this person because I'm just going to make myself another body for the ambos? Or am
Yeah.
I actually in a position to assist? Because oftentimes we're not in a position to assist either.
Well, no, and I think what happens is we have a tendency of going, all right, I'm just going to go and help because immediately this person's gone, help me. And you go, okay, I'm going to go help this person.
Yeah.
And we get a little bit of a rush as well. There's an
Oh,
element, a
yeah.
chemical rushiness of going, oh, look what I did. I just helped someone, So
Nice
there's that,
dopamine.
yeah,
Mhm.
there's that dopamine hit that you get as well. But really, you've got to step back and go, with me stepping in and assisting this person, am I really assisting this person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or am I just adding fuel to their fire that's already there?
Or is
It's
it something that they need to learn? Am I removing a step in their journey that really is something that they need to learn so that they can level up? Because
yeah,
people also, I mean, there's nothing wrong with helping if you can,
no,
if it's, but also I was asked the other day by a relative if I could assist a more distant relative into finding work in an industry that we're involved in, and I said, oh, not really. I said, here's an idea of a place that he can go and look, but the guy, I don't really know him. He's a very distant relative. I've not known him since he was little. I don't really know anything much about him, and I've learned that he's young, he's got skills, he can go and do that himself. So I pointed in the right direction and wished him the best of luck,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's not my job to assist everybody into everything just because we're distantly related. So I wish him all the best. I've given him a pointer. He can choose what he does from there. That's all I've got.
absolutely. No, I
Yeah.
totally agree. Because I think that's the thing that plays out a lot. We spoke about guilt.
Yeah.
The shame can play a big piece in that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. We
Where
jump in to help people. I've definitely
yeah,
been guilty of jumping in to help people without thinking about it. The other
yeah,
thing is, why are they in this situation in the first place?
mm,
Are they attempting to sidestep a lesson that they need to have for themselves? Are they trying to avoid something, or have they? And the universe does show us lessons repeatedly, doesn't it?
yeah, it
And I'll
does.
say something that's probably going to be a bit controversial, but I'm going to say it because it needs to be said. I've worked with a lot of females who are victims of domestic violence, not really many males, but many females. So I'm not having a go at women because I am a woman, but I can tell you the one thing that every single domestic violence victim that I've ever worked with had in common was self-abandonment. They
Uh,
neglected themselves and they put themselves last or in second place to their abuser. And either they were that way inclined to start with, or their abuser wore them down and ground them down to the point where they learned the behavior of abandoning themselves and putting their abuser first. And
yeah,
that gave their abuser power. So the other thing is, abandoning yourself, initially you might feel good or you might think that you're doing the right thing, but over the long term, it can make you very vulnerable.
it can, and you can get the shame that comes out of that too. Like when you've had the realization that you have actually basically abandoned yourself, then you
Mm.
can start that self-talk of, again, that not being good enough, etc. Or look what you did, you're so silly, why did you fall for that? All
Oh,
those
the
types of
judgment.
things.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's really realizing that, again, that type of self-talk again means that you don't have a great relationship with you. And that's where that forgiveness comes in as well, is to look at it and go, okay, self-forgiveness,
yeah,
forgiving yourself for past behaviors and past patterns,
yeah.
forgiving the other person as well. And
Mm.
and the reason why you forgive them is so you can let it go and you're not
Yeah.
constantly sitting in that situation thinking about
Yes.
it over and over again.
Yeah.
So the shame can play a big part in how we talk to ourselves as well, especially afterwards. Like if we've gone off and gone, well, I should have said no to that, and then we start giving ourselves a hard time about saying no.
Yeah,
It's
that's
all you
right.
need to do is recognize the pattern and become
Yeah,
aware
and
of it.
and just and sometimes the behavior that you've only got to shift your behavior by 2 mil.
Mm,
So like if you've got, say, a person that rings you constantly, like I've been in these situations where I've got people that constantly ring me and want me to be on available for support like all the time. So if I don't want to do that, I'll start stretching out the time when I'm going to give support.
yep,
I've had this in my work where I've worked with people and youth and offenders and all kinds of people that really need that to get them on track. But I'm also aware that I have other things that I need to do. So you have to put boundaries around contact. And
Yeah.
some people you can say, look, I can't answer your calls. You know, you're calling me 4 times a day. I can't answer all your calls. And they are so head up and in the moment and so desperate for assistance that just goes out the window. Frontal lobe shuts down and they're just in that reptilian brain calling you in a panic. So that in essence, you have to change your response to that. And so you call them when you're scheduled to call them, and then you don't respond until that time unless it's an absolute emergency, in which case you refer them on to. And you can do that with family too. You can limit. I know that some family members can get very, very trying and very reliant upon you. So it's okay. You can just refuse to take the call. And I know some people who can't do that.
Yeah.
They literally cannot say, I'm not in that space right now. I'm not going to take that call. They can't do it because they feel so guilty and they feel so bad about doing that. And again, that is an act of self-love, going, check in with myself. I'm just not in the headspace for that right now. Or actually, I'm really tired and I just would like to take a moment to sit and enjoy the view because I've come to the beach just to chill out for a minute, or I'm going to finish my walk, or I have a rule where I don't answer the phone in the gym.
Yeah.
If I'm doing a workout in the gym now, because I'm on a weight loss journey, which I know is going to take me time and I'm doing well, but it's all part of, originally I'd be like, oh God, they're ringing me. No, this is my time and I'm looking after me. And if they're in a life or death situation, they can call 000 because I'm not able to save them, and it won't be anything important 9 times out of 10. It's just, oh, where's the Vegemite or something?
Yeah. Yeah. The kids,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. It's interesting because the thing with shame and that using shame afterwards,
Yeah.
not using it, but having shame after a
Yeah.
situation and reflecting on it, it's really not a motivator. Shame does not motivate you in any way at all. It actually deflates you. So
Yeah. It makes you
recognize
freeze.
it's just
Mm.
another pattern of self-abandonment when you're talking to yourself
Yeah.
in that manner. And
Yep.
uh, as I said, the first step is to become aware of it, to observe your thinking. There was something I came across recently, actually. Probably really good for people who suffer from anxiety and things like that as well. Is that if you are wanting to change your thought process, going from negative to positive,
Mm.
what's the first thing that you've got to do is become aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a really easy tool that you can do to become aware of it is throughout the day, just stop for a minute
Mm.
and look back and go, in the last 5 minutes, how was I talking to myself?
Wow, that's a really, I mean, that sounds like simple, but goodness me, that's a challenge because that's
That is a
really
challenge.
interesting.
Yeah. But you've got to, and whether you put a reminder on your phone or anything like that to sort of say, now, this is your, mindset
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah,
Stop.
yeah.
How was I just talking to myself? And
That's
then you'll
right.
start to see, and if you do that several times throughout the day, and say do it for a week, several times a day for a week, and then
Mm.
after that, go back to write down what you were thinking, and then go back
Mm.
and see the patterns, and have a look at the patterns, and you'll see that there is a pattern of thought happening
That's why I
constantly.
love those mood logs. I love those mood logs because 9 times out of 10 when you're having anxiety, your thoughts are completely irrational.
Yeah,
They're
totally.
irrational. And you're saying things like, I didn't go to the gym today. Oh, fuck, I'm just a stupid fat bitch. No, I'm not. I'm just a person that didn't go to the gym today, but
Yeah,
that's okay because I'm human. I'm
it
imperfect.
happens. You'll
We
make
beat
up.
ourselves up, don't we? And
Yeah,
oh God, I didn't go to the thing, the social thing. I didn't feel like going. Oh God, everyone's going to think I'm an arsehole. And people then start ringing, going, "Oh, are you okay? Why didn't you come to this
yeah,
thing?" I don't feel like going.
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we had that recently. We were invited to a party that we ended up not going to, and we had a few friends that said to us, "Why didn't you come? We were expecting to see you there." And it was like, we just didn't actually feel up to it. That's
Yeah.
as simple as that. We just didn't feel up to it.
Yep.
So we were being true to ourselves and went really not in the mood to go, like not in the
Well,
party
an
mood. Just
invitation is an invitation. It's not an order. It's a yes or no answer.
yeah, yeah,
And
right.
no is valid 50% of the time. You know what I mean? Like it's either one. You don't have to
It's-
go. And see,
no,
that's the other thing. I think another reason that we do this self-abandonment, we don't love ourselves enough, is that we have all these senses of obligation that we hold as well.
Mm.
It's unless it's a wedding or a funeral, and even then, I mean, you may have
Don't
mixed
have to
feelings
go.
about that too. You don't
Yeah,
have to
you
go.
don't have to go. If it makes you feel uncomfortable or you're too tired or whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
If you just don't want to go, you don't want to go. So don't force yourself to go. Also say at the same time though, if you're using that as an excuse not to go, then you need to look at it again because that's the whole thing is you've got to look at it and go, what is the reasoning behind it? Are you
Yeah.
being genuine or are you using it as an excuse?
Are you saying to yourself, I just don't want to put myself through all of that drama because I know it's going to be a drama. I know someone who was invited to a funeral of a family friend a couple of years ago, and his mother is a recovering alcoholic, and she really wanted him to go to this funeral, and he didn't want to go. And he said, "Oh God, it's just going to be so much drama. Everyone's going to be wailing and weeping, and it's just I'll send a wreath and a letter and a card, and that will do because that's okay." And I'm also like he was really busy with work and all these other things, and it just came at a terrible time, and he couldn't get the time off. And his mother literally filmed a video of herself, um, a photo of herself drinking alcohol, going, "I'm so stressed and I need you here. I'm having the first drink I've had in 30 years because you're not coming."
Wow.
And he still didn't go. But that's how things it's interesting because humans can be a bit that way. And I was actually really impressed with him. I said, "Wow, that was a big act of self-love. You chose yourself." You said, "I'm not going." Because if he'd have gone, all of the dramas and all of the stuff that would have happened there, he would have been unpacking that for months. It would have been
Yeah.
draining him for months.
He
It's
would have
just not
he
worth
would
it.
have fallen back into default behavior, the old
Yeah.
behavior,
Yeah,
and he's trying to create new behavior. And
that's right.
family will do that. They'll put the guilt on. They'll absolutely put the guilt on because they
Guilt
know
on.
they can
Yeah.
push the buttons. And
Yeah.
he in that particular situation, he is not responsible for his mum having a drink. She is totally responsible and
That's what
choosing
I
to
said to
that,
him. I said, if
choosing to
she
take that
chooses
action.
that path,
Yeah.
that's on her. But it's amazing, isn't it? These are the tactics and the manipulation tools that people will use. And I always think, I mean, look, I think this is common knowledge. When you set a boundary, if you haven't had boundaries previously, and then you start setting boundaries, saying things, and you're not being awful, you're just going, "I'm really sorry, that's not going to fit with my schedule. I'm already committed to other things." If people then start engaging in manipulative or, those kinds of behaviors like such as that, that's probably a bit of a red flag.
No, totally. A real red flag.
It's
So
actually, yeah, stay away
what
from
do you
that
reckon,
person.
Kat what do you reckon, Kat, is the difference between holding ourselves accountable and shaming ourselves?
Oh God. Okay, I love this one. So shame is, I think we've had this discussion before. I used to love having this conversation with guys I would work with in probation parole because they would tend to shame themselves a lot. And shame is a useless, wasted emotion. It gives us nothing. All it does is it makes us curl up in a little ball and go, "I'm useless, I'm no good, and I'll never change." It's so disempowering. It's so demotivating. It's the worst thing that you can possibly do, as opposed to self-reflection and looking at yourself. That was what you asked, wasn't it? The
Yeah,
difference between shame
yeah,
and
accountability. Yeah. Yeah.
accountability is fantastic because you can go and you can have a little bit of guilt. You can go, "Oh, you know what? I let my mouth run away with me again. I was too harsh and I need to learn from that." And I might even just go, "You know what? I'm sorry for the way I said it, but what I said was actually, I did mean what I said. I just didn't say it very well. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but my boundary still stands." That's
Yeah,
guilt. That's accountability. Accountability helps you learn, doesn't it?
it does.
You
Mm.
learn and you feel good about yourself because you also practice that forgiveness. You go, "Oh God," and I do this all the time because I'm on an incredibly steep learning curve. I'll admit that. Um, and I think, oh, like actually, Joe and I were out for brekkie the other morning, and we went to this place where um, I've had breakfast several times, and they cover the food with pepper. I don't know about you, but I'm not a pepper fan. And for me, when you put a ton of pepper in scrambled eggs, then you are a heathen. You're a heathen. You don't know scrambled eggs. They're not meant to have pepper in them. Every time I go there. Anyway, this time we went for breakfast and I said to the guy that was looking after us, I said, "Mate, please don't put any pepper in anything." He goes, "No pepper." And I went, "No, I don't want any pepper." He goes, "Really? You don't want any pepper?" I said, "Please, no." I said, and because he was just not getting it. And I went, "Look, no pepper, no chili, no nothing. Don't add anything. You can put some herbs in, but please just don't put anything else in there because pepper in scrambled eggs is for heathens." And he just went, "Okay." And I said, "Thank you so much." He walked away and Joe looked at me and went, that was a bit too psycho. And I stopped and I thought about it. I went, yeah, I had a little moment. So I went back to him afterwards and I said, I'm sorry, I was a bit nuts about the pepper and the eggs thing. He goes, oh, don't worry about it. And I was like, no. I was a bit rude and silly, but I had to get my message across because I was in a panic because the last 2 times I've been here, you filled my scrambled eggs full of pepper, but that doesn't excuse my silly behaviour. Have a lovely day. And we had a laugh and we
There you
moved
go.
on.
And see, that's accountability right
That
there.
is accountability.
Yeah.
And then I let it go and Joe let it go and we all had a laugh and moved forward. But yeah, I probably was a bit too much because I can be a bit too much sometimes.
Yeah.
Can't we all?
I think, yeah, we all can. I
But
know
accountability is about growth. Accountability
It is.
is going, all right, I've made a mistake. And how many mistakes do we make as humans? And when do we stop making mistakes?
I don't think we do. We learn from
Never.
our mistakes, don't we? And I think that's the thing. Accountability is one of those it helps you build self-trust. Again, it's one of those things that does it
Yes.
for you.
Yes,
So
it does.
what do you think is some really tiny, winnable kind of self-trust steps that people can take?
Oh, that's a big one, isn't it? Tiny, winnable self-trust steps. I think try saying a gentle no.
Hmm?
Try saying a gentle no.
Yeah.
If you've got a friend, and because we all have friends that you love, but they're draining you a little bit and you need to put a little bit of distance in there, just try saying a gentle no. Or try saying to your partner, you know, when you say this to me, it really makes me feel really uncomfortable. Can we change that? Have those little conversations and have a conversation with yourself.
Yes.
I love those self conversations and
Yeah.
look in the mirror and go, are you willing to put up with that? Or what do you want to do? How do
What
you
do you
want
want to do
to,
differently? How can you do
yeah.
it differently? Yeah.
How do you want it to look that would
Yeah.
feel, because, you know, we're not saying you've got to go from black to white. We're
No,
saying you've just got to shift, just a little shift, because
just
that
a
will
little.
start empowering you. That'll start empowering you. I know um, showing up for yourself, because you made a really great comment the other week when we were talking about workplaces. You talked about bullying yourself.
Mm,
And that is the opposite of loving yourself. So if you're bullying yourself and going, oh, I've just got to suck it up, I've just got to do it, and it's really getting to you, then ask the question, what is it about this situation that's making me feel really uncomfortable? Even just stopping and listening to yourself and giving yourself the space to stop and have that conversation with yourself. Go, okay, why is this making me feel uncomfortable? What is it about it? And let that honesty, self-honesty is the key of where it all starts, isn't it?
it is. That I'd say that doing that accountability journaling a sponge, you know,
Oh, journaling's a good one.
the
Yeah.
at night time before you go to bed, journal
Mm,
how you went, look at your day and journal down all the accountability components.
yeah.
And as you said earlier on, what did I do today? What could I improve upon that? And what's one thing that I can do differently tomorrow to get a
Yeah.
different outcome, different reaction? Doesn't really matter. But just reflecting on that and
And
going,
don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up.
no, not at all. And self-reflection, I think, is extremely important.
Mm,
Meditation, I think, is another really powerful thing that you can do for self-trust. But you
yeah.
don't need to sit there and go, well, I'm going to meditate for the next hour, or I'm going to meditate or, you know, or even when you say I can't meditate, um, meditation, and I think this is where some people get it wrong, is they think it means your mind has to basically shut up. Your mind never shuts up. Your mind's always rattling on.
Yeah.
And it's about becoming observant of it and allowing it not to get caught up in the mind chatter, but just watching it go by
Yeah.
and then calming yourself. Now, whether you do a guided meditation or a breath meditation doesn't really matter, but meditation's a really good place to just start centering yourself.
Mm,
And 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, start with that. It doesn't have to
yeah, I
be.
love it.
And
I've started to love it.
if you don't do it every day, that's okay. Just
Yeah.
do it and you can do it. But you'll find a change. And
Yeah.
I think it's those, as you're saying before, we're not looking for massive change. It's just 1 degree of change. So what can you implement tomorrow or even today that will help you move that 1 degree?
Take some quiet time for yourself. Take 10 minutes, even if you've got to get up in the morning before the whole family is awake or whatever you've got to do. Take 10 minutes and go, this is me time. Nothing is going to interrupt me. I'm going to feed my brain with something good, or I'm going to ask myself a question. I'm going to contemplate that question. What is it that I'm doing that is making me feel unhappy about this particular situation? And again, we always say
Yeah.
this, eat the elephant one bite at a time. Have a little nibble
Totally. Totally. And journaling's a really good way of tracking how you're progressing as
That's
well.
true too. Yeah.
You know, you can keep a journal just to see how you're going. Like some people keep journals around their dieting and things like that. Do it
Mm.
around mental health, you know, keep a
Mm. Yep.
so yeah, just keep going with it. Now, the other aspect that you can do is obviously if you really get stuck or you feel that you can't do enough self work and you need assistance with it, is to get yourself a coach.
Get yourself a
Like,
coach. I love coaching. I tell you what, I know you're a big journaler. I'm not a big journaler. I'll get more out of, like, when you and I have done coaching, bouncing a bunch of ideas off you for half an hour going, and you go, what about this? Have you thought about that? And I go, oh, arrow to the brain. I might walk away and it might take me a week to process that. Coaching is, mwah, love coaching. Anyway,
it is fantastic.
the biggest, if you want to make big jumps forward, coaching is you go.
Yeah.
Mm.
And if coaching isn't your thing, like if you kind of go, no, I don't want to do coaching, because coaching's not for everybody. Some people
True,
don't want to
true.
do it. Want to do
True.
this, all the self work on their own, in their
Yep.
own time, in their own space. We do actually have a workbook called the Authentic Life Blueprint Workbook, and it's all about you reconnecting with you.
Yeah,
It's
which is also amazing.
about
Yeah.
understanding what your values are,
Mm.
identifying the things that are important to you in your life,
Yep.
reconnecting with who you are at a soul level.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of different exercises in that workbook. Now, that's a really, really good tool that you can use to help you with that self
Mm,
discovery and rebuilding that
amazing.
relationship with yourself again.
It is, and it's structured. That's what I love about the Authentic Life Blueprint. It's structured. It starts you really
Yeah,
small. It introduces the concepts and it builds you very quickly. And not being funny, I've looked at other things online and there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of people creating content.
there
I
are.
haven't seen anything that actually, because I'm a results driven person. So, I mean, it's nice to get a bit of, fluffy, but I want to know how. And
Yeah.
that's what that does. It gives you actual proper skills and helps you build from a base. And suddenly you're building up really quickly. It is, yeah, it's excellent.
It
It's
does
helped me in
take you
my own.
from where you are today, and
Yeah.
it'll set you on a totally different path by the
Yeah.
time you finish it. And some of the feedback that we've had with it as well is each time someone finishes an exercise or a lesson, they've always walked away going, "Wow, I actually got quite a lot out of that." There was
Yeah.
something
Yeah. Yeah.
was even if it was a slight mind shift change, they've still walked away with something that has actually
Yep.
had a dramatic impact in the way that they view their
Huge.
life. Yeah,
Huge, huge. But don't do it if you aren't prepared to have big impacts because it
that's
really does work.
it
It's not
does.
just light and fluffy, make you feel good stuff. It actually does the job.
Yeah. So again, if you are someone who's constantly abandoning yourself and you are wanting to make a change, please go no further than have a look at the workbook. It'll definitely help you out.
Yeah,
There will be a link below in the comments. There'll also be a link in the description, or you can just go check out our website.
do that.
Pretty
And you
simple.
can also subscribe. If you are
And
enjoying what we are talking about, subscribe and get even more free content and even more stories because I think that's what we need to do is share our information.
absolutely. And I would also like you to think of a journaling question. Take a journaling question away with you. Yeah. So this is one thing you're going to
Mm.
say: where in my life do I most feel the pain of not trusting myself?
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, think about that one.
Mm.
Now,
Yep.
so on that note, you could also do a 7-day micro promise.
Oh,
How would that be?
that would actually be an amazing way to kickstart yourself on a
Yeah,
big goal that looks too big and just go, I'm just going to do it for 7 days and then see how you feel at the end of that. That'd be
exactly.
amazing. Like even if it was walking for 20 minutes a day.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Mm,
But give
mm,
yourself a micro promise over 7 days. And it's just
mm,
one tiny promise that kind of makes you feel, well, it has to be realistic. Yeah.
mm,
It's got to be
mm.
aligned
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
the things that you want to do. So do it. Whether that's like examples would be, I'm going to take 3 breaths before picking up the phone, or
Yes.
I'm going to do um, that segment of throughout my day, I'm going to stop for a minute and reflect on my thoughts for the last 5 minutes and write those thoughts down. Or it could
Yep.
be not going on social media for 24 hours, whatever, putting your
I'm not
phone
going to
down.
react. I'm not going to
Yeah,
react. I'm going to respond. I'm going to stop and
yeah,
think before yeah.
exactly. So choose
Mm.
something to do for the next 7 days, and we would love to hear what your results were from that,
Oh,
like
it'd be awesome.
some of your insights from it. Provide comments below. That'd be really, really cool. Or come to our Facebook community page and
Mm.
post it up there. It'd be fantastic to hear from you with your, the 7-day micro challenge.
Oh, I'd love to hear about that actually.
Yeah,
It'd be awesome.
absolutely. So it was lovely to share some of our insights with you today. If you did get something from it, again, we would love to hear from you. We've mentioned about our Facebook community page. Come and join us there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, because it's one of the ways that we can actually impart knowledge, but also make a difference in each other's lives, because it
Yeah,
really is about sparking each other and ensuring that we are living our life on purpose, with purpose. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
remember to think beautifully and live brilliantly. And thank you for all your support. We'll speak later. Ciao.
Bye.
We'd like to say a huge thank you to our incredible audience for your continued support. Our mission is to ignite your spark, empowering you to be a beacon of light for others. We'd love to hear from you. So if you've got any questions that you would like answered in future episodes, or just want to share some insights, connect with us on our Facebook community page. If you're looking for additional resources, go to our website. You'll find the link below. And remember, the absolute best way to help us grow is to share this episode with your friends and family, and to subscribe to the Art of Beautiful Thinking podcast. So until next time, think beautifully and live brilliantly.